You may or may not know the name Slayyyter. She is a pop singer who has been on the rise for a couple of years, building up her brand, her image, her personality, dropping singles, collaborations, that kind of thing. She's not a particularly big name. She's not an artist that's, getting viral success or anything like that. But I think she could be one day. After hearing this mixtape, I definitely hear something in her sound that could potentially gain some traction in later years. We'll have to see. But as for the mixtape itself, I'm actually really quite enjoying this. This is definitely the type of album that can split a lot of listeners. I know for a fact there'll be people out there that adore this, call it fantastic. Some people out there that just think this is damn right awful, just follows so many pop trends that it just loses every kind of personality it could potentially have. And I completely see both sides of the argument here, because you will listen to this and you will immediately be reminded of 2000s pop. We're talking artists like Nelly Furtado, pretty much anything Timbaland was ever involved in. You could even throw Justin Timberlake in there. Even more recent stuff like Kesha, Lady Gaga. They were the latter end of the 2000s, breaking into the 2010s, but I think those types of comparisons are fairly apt here. But I think the most direct line you could draw to Slayyyter is Britney Spears. Now, this is the thing with all these comparisons, because a lot of music critics and nerds love to do this, where they're just throwing out names and kind of ignoring what makes the artist unique themselves. And just because I'm saying all these names doesn't mean that she's any less unique as an artist just because of all these comparisons. But I think knowing all these names and understanding where she gets her influences from will really help you sort of get what she's going for, because it is a very throwback style that she's going for. But the thing is that in 2019 this kind of feels weirdly fresh. There's nothing out there that's really sounding anything like this. All the artists I've named have literally completely transformed their styles and sounds to something that sounds nothing like it ever once did. I mean, you all heard Man of the Woods. We ain't getting that same JT that we once did in 2006. That's long gone. But something that Slayyyter has that so many artists don't really have, or don't dare to put out there in the world, I don't think, is this really open sex appeal. Her lyrics are so on the nose with this type of thing. She's just very much open about how she feels, her lyrics, what she wants these lovers of hers to be doing to her. If stuff like that completely puts you off, then you're just not going to like this album, because Motorcycle, just read the lyrics and you'll know exactly what this is about. Stuff like this is usually really off-putting to me, but actually she has this sass about her that I think she completely sells. No way any other artist right now could pull this off and make it sound anywhere near as natural. I just don't see really anyone that you could name that would get this right. I mean, Charlie XCX might be the closest that you could name that is sort of doing that with some of her tracks, but even then she's got this completely unique sound and style of her own that kind of takes you out of her lyrics, and they end up being the secondary component to what makes her music important and interesting to a lot of the listeners. Whereas Slayyyter here is so upfront with her delivery, her vocals. They are just really well recorded pop tunes at the end of the day. I mean, Mine is such a catchy track. I mean, tracks like Touch My Body I've heard 100 times before, probably 1,000 times before, in terms of its sound and style and production. But again, the word catchy here is completely relevant, because it just is. Now, there is someone that you could compare it to at the moment who has this very open sexual nature about her, and that would be Kim Petras. But I think that Kim has something about her lyrics that just end up coming out as really ugly and crass, whereas something like Daddy AF on this album somehow manages to work, because Slayyyter is just a natural at this. I don't know how she makes this song work, because it is almost cringe-inducing, but I think with it being the most bombastic track production-wise, it just ends up being ignored, because ultimately she's completely selling it, so you don't really care about what she's saying. It's the type of thing that anyone else might say, this is gross and completely unflattering, and I would say, yeah, you're right. Another thing I wanted to say about this album is that even though it sounds very manufactured and just attempting to copy previous trends that have already been done. I do think it actually ends up working in its favor because of how charismatic she is as a singer. She could just slather her voice in all this auto-tune and all these awful effects that make it sound really ugly, but she doesn't, and that's what I think I like about her as a performer the most. It's a big reason why I feel like, someone like Hannah Diamond stands out in the PC music camp right now, because I do feel like I get a sense of who she is as a vocalist and a performer, and that's exactly how I feel about Slayyyter. So yes, while it's not as creative as something as 100 Gex or that Dorian Electra album, I'm still enjoying it about equally as much as those. So I think a 7 out of 10 is fair. It's nothing really too special at the end of the day. It's not really doing anything new, but it does what it does well, and I'm okay with it. Just like with those albums, I could see why you'd hate this, but I think it's pretty damn good. So let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching my review. Have a good day. Goodbye.